Five, four, three, two, one. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Okay, let's dig in today, and here we go. Bacardi's forced. I like this, Molly Fleming. I liked your article because I could understand it. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the execution was, which I would have liked one more paragraph. But it may have been truncated by my PDF printer. I don't know. Anyway, here's Bacardi's four-stage. I really did like the guy here. Okay, I think that's the CMO, typical glad-handing marketing guy, big smile, Okay, so let's get on to it. It's had a huge impact, lockdown restrictions, bars are shut. So a four-stage strategy supports local businesses, helping them adapt to a rapidly changing reality. The first stage was to react. The second was supporting people through confinement. That could mean we support them by confinement, but never mind, we won't. We won't go there. And the third was emerging together, which we are now in, and the fourth is business back to normal, and that's all there is. But I thought that was a good plan for everybody. Let's emerge back to normal. And there was some big news on vitamin D. Take your vitamin D. It may explain everything, and you won't die, probably. Oh, here. Periscope just came up. So we'll go there and see if anybody's over. Now I can see your hearts. Okay, this was I like this story. It wasn't long. The startup is trying to master networking by video conference. And really, what it is more about, I think, is it's about how to do video big group interaction, because video is not that hard. We've been doing video since the mid 90s. Our IT guy was in Russia, and or he wanted to move to Russia, and then I called his pastor and said, he can't, we have this big client, we can't let him leave. And the pastor said, well, why not? Why don't you figure it out? So we gave him 3 months to figure it out in the USA, and we sent him, then he was doing pretty well. And then we sent him off to Russia, and we could do, I think Yahoo had video phone thing going back in the 90s, real early on. And I remember his apartment in Moscow had like a bear bulb over his head, and it just looked really funky. Looked like he was in prison. Which, Anyway, so we've been doing that for a long time, but this is a really inspirational story where Ashley Ammons and her mom, Carrie Schrader, said, we decided that video conferencing wasn't very good, and everything we learned about Mixtroz was via Google searches. They hit on their business idea in 2014 when they realized business networking was broken and it was too awkward and unnatural. Mixtroz brings like-minded people together all algorithmically. That sounds like a hit right there, for me, right? Answer a set of 10 questions, and the algorithm pairs users up into small groups. So you get like the old school chat rooms along with your watching the conference. So it's not an overwhelming thing where you have thousands of people sending messages and nobody listening. You can have interaction. In 2018, the company topped $1 million in pre-seed funding, making the duo one of only a few dozen black women founders to reach that milestone. Way to go, girls. And then this March, the pandemic made in-person networking disappear overnight, so Ammons threw herself into remaking Mixtroz for video conferencing era. In just 45 days, Ammons and her team of contract engineers built their own video platform using open source code, which is actually cool too. We use open source code a lot, and you can go a long way with it, and then you add your customization. Within minutes, Mixtroz Virtual will take your 500-person event and split everyone into groups of 5. Then you're sent to a private room. Customizable icebreakers make starting a conversation a little easier. I'm going to go try it out. Mixtroz, Mixtroz. I think it's a great idea. I was going to say they're a little late to the party. We're almost back to meeting in person. I did have one meeting in person last week. up in Minnesota and found out the next day that I may have been exposed to the coronavirus. Maybe I should get back with that person and tell them that they could die, but we sat more than 6 feet apart and had a nice coffee. Okay, China could be using TikTok to spy on Australians. This was from witch-50.com. And, you know, Witch50 is kind of interesting because it gives a marketing perspective from Australia, and I like it. So anyway, a liberal senator, and liberal can mean something different over there than it does here. TikTok was being used and abused by the Chinese government. How so? Well, they have 2 billion downloads worldwide, and TikTok uses your camera, your microphone, your contact list. It also collects location data along with information from other apps on the device. And Scott Adams pointed out that because his brother follows him, just him on Twitter. That's the only person that his brother follows. And every now and then, he gets unfollowed. And the brother says, hey, Twitter is blocking you. And it turns out, this may not be the case because there were 6 or 7 apps, but 6 or 7 apps on his brother's phone said, we would like to have access to your contact list and apps that they follow or something like that. And so it's possible that a third-party app could be disconnecting your Twitter followers. And we haven't conclusively proven that, but it's a really interesting theory because it makes it much more difficult to figure out what's going on. Right. It also seems to be gathering phone numbers, emails, location, IP address, social network contacts. TikTok concealed the transfer of data, including biometric data, and continued to harvest it even after the app was closed. Now, you might not think this has any bearing, but let's suppose that a terrorist group wanted to identify all the people who support my videos, saying that this guy is too radical. I'm just making this up. And so then they find out who my followers. They look on TikTok, and yes, they're all there because most of my followers are little teenagers. I'm sure that's not true. I'm on Twitch every day, but I have never heard from anybody there watching it. And I don't really check the statistics, so I don't know if anyone does. But anyway, I'm losing my train of thought thinking about the name Twitch. So they could use the biometric data and go find you and the IP address and find your house and dox you and tell the world how bad it is that you follow me, right? I know it's hypothetical, but they could come to your house with a Wetworks team and make sure that my followers are short-lived or just unfollow. Anyway, now TikTok argues that our data centers are located entirely outside of China. Singapore are one of the places that houses their data, but the Chinese government could have access to it. It's not clear. This whole thing is not clear. The point the article makes is if Australia decided to ban it, which some of the legislators have called for, and I think, I can't think of his name, Pompeo, they asked him yesterday if they were thinking of banning TikTok. And Pompeo said, I don't want to get ahead of the president, but, which means it's probably already decided. They're trying to figure out if it's, if they can do it and how they would do it. But it's not so simple. Users in Australia would still be able, Australia could ban it on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store in Australia. They can't tell TikTok to ban it in the United States, right? But the Australia users, probably even without a VPN, but certainly with one, could go to the Play Store in the USA and download it, or probably there are other sources for that download because, downloads are all over the place. So that wouldn't probably work. It wouldn't automatically remove it from the devices which already had it. And even if it was banned, and even if it were removed, the data is already out on the loose. So maybe it's too late for my followers. Don't forget to like and share. That was hypothetical. Okay, Microsoft and iProspect looked at what is customer data worth. Now, here's this article was remarkably not worth reading, and it's a long article. See, it goes into all these percentages. Scott Adams made the point today that people don't know how to study data or compare data, and this is a great one. What your customer is worth is basically the value of their repurchase through the future. That's the real worth of the customer. That's what we do. We figure out who's more likely to buy. More often we figure out who's less likely to repurchase, but we found some nuggets of repurchase hidden in your data. And if you have a 3 or 4 year old customer that you can reactivate, it can be worth thousands of dollars through the future. I've been a Land's End customer since the 70s, right? Okay, so I don't know how many thousands of dollars I've spent with Land's End, but I'm sure it is. My wife just bought, a winter coat and a winter vest and a bunch of other stuff, and I buy turtlenecks every year. That's half the year I'm the floating head, right? Anyway, that's where I get them. So customer data, and if you want to know another worth, go to the list industry, and you can actually value your customer file depending on how many other people want to rent it. We've been doing it for decades. This kind of information that they're talking about, this digital information, very, very worthless. Very, very low value. They did a very in-depth deep dive at a very minuscule part of customer worth. So that's all we're going to say. That's a typical Microsoft product. They don't understand LinkedIn. They've ruined it. They keep ruining it. It keeps getting worse because they don't understand it. They think it's some kind of gold mine for them, and they don't let you share. And as I said, I worked on scraping it and got a really great treasure trove of stuff. Okay, here's an interesting article, The Purpose of Purpose in a Post-Pandemic World, and it's pretty long. James Clifton, it would have been nice to boil it down a little bit. He's saying that Mark Ritson says, calm down, things will come back to normal. Most things won't change. Human nature, being what it is, doesn't change. Mary Portas, on the other hand, says there's going to be a radical shift to the kindness economy. Now, the trouble with Mary's perspective is the kindness to some is not kindness to others. Like a big Fortune 500 firm this week announced that they were going to ensure that people of color were 50% plus in their workforce. Sounds great, except that the population isn't even 50% plus people of color. So that causes a problem. I don't know the qualifications that they're looking for, but my guess is also that doesn't match up to 50% of the population of your target employee base. So how are they going to make that happen? And they're going to make it happen, because if it were going to happen on its own, it would have happened already. So they're going to have to fire the white people, as far as I can tell, because white people make up more of the population than that. So they're actually embracing an entirely public racist policy that's against the law and being applauded, probably. I didn't really follow the story. And, but so the kindness to some can be unkind to others. That's one point, right? But as James points out, right now things certainly do feel different from before, from just January and February. Holy smokes. Okay? And the temptation for business is to change with the wind. Now, we have dampened our AI pitch a little bit, although I'm on with a prospective client today who wants to do more AI. And for that reason is given me a call. But because of the challenges to marketing, embracing new MarTech is challenging. So we've kind of dampened that down, and we're talking more about customer value. We're talking more about return on investment and how we beat what you're doing. We crush what you're doing now, which makes you more money. Boil it all down. Okay, so we've changed the emphasis. But our core values are, most people don't know how to predict the future. In fact, you can't. We're better at it than just about anybody in the world. So our core value is we help you. We help you treat your customers like they're worth. That's probably would be a good brand for us long term through all the years we've been doing this, 25 years of modeling and customer segmentation. We help you treat your customers as they're worth. That's not so simple. It's very complicated, as it happens. But long term, that's what we do. And we do it really well. And that's not going to change. That's not going to change one iota, whether there's a pandemic or not. In fact, our clients are way up, and the pandemic, some people benefit, some people don't. Okay, so the temptation, but at Mission, and I don't know what this mission is, it's some organization I think that James is part of. We have been working hard with all sorts of clients across countries, sectors on purpose for a number of years, and it seems to me nothing has transpired in these turbulent is an easier word to say, tumultuous times, recent months, change our belief. Rather, it has strengthened it. James, go with the simpler words if you can. Brand purpose is the irreducible core of why a brand or company exists, which I just mentioned ours. Truth remains the bedrock of a small brand. Truth has to be at its core, and sometimes it's not. Nike, Apple, L'Oreal, and Spotify were called out by Mike Cernovich, who follows me on Twitter, for supporting Black Lives Matter and then not having any blacks on the board. And I especially call out Nike because their whole mission plan or whatever, their shtick that they've been pitching for years is that we help athletes perform their best regardless of color. And there are plenty of great black businessmen. And Adidas was in that list too, with no black representation. So, you don't have to fire all of your board. You don't have to fire all your white employees, but give them some obvious voice. And I know they gave Colin Kaepernick VP of culture or something. I forget what. Probably pay him $1 million. But he's a victim. Anyway, a victim of systematic racism in America. Okay, so if you find yourself tweaking your brand purpose every couple of years, then it's a clear warning sign you don't really have a purpose at all. Or you haven't been telling the truth, which is you have a marketing slogan, which oftentimes doesn't connect with truth. Virgin Brand's purpose has always been to disrupt established market monopolies for the benefit of the consumer. I could say we disrupt AI. Put me head to head with an AI company. Happy to do it. Would love to do that. Okay, Nike, it was to treat everyone as an athlete regardless of ability. Yeah, that was interesting. The Just Do It was about treating me like an athlete, which is kind of dumb because I can barely get up the stairs. But regardless of income, creed, ability, or color. But they should get some black athletes on their board. And that's a zigzag. They keep changing it. So having a clear, strong brand purpose can give brand leaders, indeed everyone, a touchstone that allows you to navigate stormy conditions better. Remember, to all intents and purposes these days, your brand is your culture and vice versa. And our culture is, we tell the truth even if it hurts us. So purpose is internally valuable as it is externally, and I think a lot of that sentiment is great. So James, thank you for your article. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. Bye-bye.